Legendary global investor Jim Rogers, the author of A Gift to My Children, and he joins me now. First of all, Mr. Rogers, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning.
I'm delighted to be here.
Let's take a look at Greece. So you actually think that there shouldn't be a bailout, that the IMF shouldn't be called in. What are your thoughts?
Do you? I mean, you think that that good, hard-working Germans and Austrians and Frenchmen should go in and pay for people who've been spending money they didn't have and lying about it?
Well, it certainly looks like the Germans think that now. It seems like there is a split.
I think that, and I would think everybody would think that. Why should you support people who've been living high on the hog on somebody else's money for a long time? By the way, I think it would be good for Greece, I think it would be good for the euro if they let them go bankrupt, and then people would understand we're going to have a sound currency. We're not going to let people play fast and loose with accounting and spending, and then the euro would go through the roof, in my view. It's not going to happen that way, but that's the way it should happen.
If it did happen that way, would Greece stay within the euro? They would have to go out, right?
Well, they'd probably have to go out of Europe, but they wouldn't have to. No, they would not have to. They probably would because their politicians would want to. But look, if one of the American states went bankrupt, a small state in America went bankrupt, it wouldn't be the end of the U.S. It wouldn't be the end of the U.S. dollar. I mean, if Idaho went bankrupt, who would care? No, the euro could survive, the EU could survive, Greece could survive, we all could survive.
It does show, though, doesn't it, that this kind of one-size-fits-all idea, if the euro isn't really working, you know, it's quite difficult for anyone to persuade German consumers at home to spend and have more of a southern European model. And similarly, it seems very hard to persuade the southern European states to copy the German model.
Well, okay, but the southern European states, if they want to be competitive, they're going to have to copy a hard-working, saving, and not spending a model. That's the way the world works, whether they like it or not. If they don't like that, perhaps they shouldn't be in the euro, and perhaps they shouldn't be in the EU, for that matter. But that's the way the world works. Had you rather be as successful as Germany or as unsuccessful as Greece? I'd rather be as successful as Germany.
Now, let's look at the euro as a currency. Last year you said that sterling was finished. Would you rather at the moment be in sterling or be in euros?
I own the euro. I do not own sterling. I have no position in sterling, long nor short. I do own the euro, have massive amounts of short positions in the euro, and so I usually like to be on the other side of big short positions. And I think they will probably paper this crisis over. I don't think they should paper it over, but they probably will. And if they do, the euro will look better for a while.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about credit default swaps and the pressure that that's put on Greece. Do you think that speculators have actually made things worse?
Andrea, the speculators didn't run up 12% deficits of gross national product. The speculators didn't run up huge debts. Greek politicians did that. The Greek nation did that. No, speculators aren't causing this. You know, if suddenly somebody discovers a gold mine, people go in and buy those shares. If somebody's going bankrupt, people go in and invest accordingly. That's the way the world works. You can't blame this on the speculators. The speculators are reacting to what the Greeks themselves have done.
So what would you say then to European leaders who are saying, let's ban credit default swaps entirely?
Well, they're nuts. I mean, right now, credit default swaps are good for Greece because people will buy their bonds because they can protect themselves with a credit default swap. It will just make things worse if you try to ban these things. But politicians don't normally understand how the world works. That's why they're politicians.
Now, let's have a little chat about sterling. You've made it very clear that you don't own sterling.
Nor am I short.
And is that something that you're happy with? Is that something you'll continue to do? Is just literally not touch the currency?
I doubt if I will own sterling in my lifetime. I think things are pretty bad for sterling for the long term. The balance of trade has been in deficit for 25 years. I see nothing to change that. I see that continuing to get worse. So I cannot. I sold my sterling a couple of years ago. I cannot imagine buying sterling back unless it gets very, very, very cheap.
A hung parliament could perhaps be a reason why it would get cheap. Are you looking at that?
Yeah, but I think it would have to get. No, that wouldn't be cheap enough.
How cheap's cheap?
Under $1, you know, way down. Okay. So no, if it got really, really, really cheap, then of course everything would be better. But that's not anytime soon, I don't think.
Moving on to equities, if we look at the FTSE, it's increased hugely over the past year. Do you think that equities generally are overvalued at the moment?
Well, I'm not buying equities anywhere in the world right now because, just as you say, they've all skyrocketed for the last 12 months. Actually, 12 months almost exactly. So I'm not buying anything. I don't like to buy stocks after they've gone up a lot. If they correct, which I suspect they will before too much longer, then I might buy some more stocks again.
What kind of a correction would you be looking for?
I'm not that good. Watch Bloomberg. People on Bloomberg every day who can answer that question. I don't know. We'll see. If it goes down 20 or 30%, that would probably raise my interest.